By the time you're watching this video, the Earth will have turned 2018 years old. 2018 years is a long time for the Earth to be around. Or, if we're trying to be correct about the Earth's shape, a flat. In all these years, it makes sense that the flat Earth model is hard to define. There are so many interpretations, not because they're all wrong, because the information can be skewed during such a large time frame. I believe it is time to re-educate the ignorant, so I present to you the official 100% accurate flat Earth model. A very good place to start is the beginning. Just like Do, Re, Mi are the three main notes of the Western scale, there are three main celestial bodies that we're going to talk about today: the Sun, the Moon, and the Earth. We'll start with the Earth. The Earth, as we all know, is a flat circular disk of rock and water contained by the giant ice walls called Antarctica. Now, I know that sounds absurd because the distance between meridians seems to change based on your proximity to the center, but that is plainly incorrect. Have you, yes, you, measured the distance between meridians? I don't think so. I just happen to know the meridians properly support the flat Earth. I just don't want to go into it now. The video will be too long anyways, and I don't want to draw all of that. You'll just have to believe my judgment. Anyways, the Earth is super duper flat, and we should explore how this planet functions in space. First of all, that stupid idea of gravity is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Whenever I hear people claim objects with mass are attracted to each other, I take a long, nice sip of my Mountain Dew and spit take it into their face as I burst out laughing. If gravity exists, then why doesn't a soccer ball attract another soccer ball? I've seen no legitimate proof that small objects attract each other, so those roundies are just a bunch of delusional idiots who have no idea what they're talking about. The explanation is much less idiotic than that. The Earth is simply accelerating upward at 9.8 meters per second squared due to the dark matter around our planet. Obviously. This satisfies how things are able to fall to Earth. It's actually a rather simple concept, but people are just too close-minded to accept our superior ideals. Okay, now that we have an Earth, it's time to add the Sun. Many people claim the Sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth, but that is laughable. How could a ball of fire still be hot from that far away? I'm unable to feel the heat of my fireplace a mere couple feet away from it. It makes much more sense that the Sun is actually only about 4,000 miles away from us. That way, the Earth is actually able to feel the Sun's warmth before it fades away. The Sun does much more than sit around up there in the sky. It is constantly revolving over the Earth, which causes the day and night cycles here. There are many models created by the Flat Earth Society that show the path the Sun takes to accurately cause these cycles, including seasonal changes as well. Like an electron, the Sun alternates between different paths of orbit around the nucleus we call the North Pole. The variance in direct light while the Sun is in different orbitals causes the seasons to happen. It's actually very fascinating that our Sun is able to do so much for the disk we live on. Let's have a moment of silence for a flaming ball of hydrogen in the sky. Although we know the exact movements of the Sun, we aren't exactly sure how those movements happen. The most accepted theory is that the Sun is moving by the same unseen force, or ether, that keeps the Earth gravitating up at 9.8 meters per second squared. Another theory, coined by moi, is that the Sun is circling around a sort of invisible cylinder that intersects with the Earth's center and goes infinitely in the up and down directions. The cylinder would be thin in diameter, like a pole of sorts. This cylinder would attract the Sun, which causes it to dance around it, therefore causing the day and night cycle. I don't know what the name of this theory would be, but I'd probably call it something like the pole dancer theory. There's also the assumption that such movement is impossible and that the Earth can't be flat because of this oversight. I'd just like to reiterate that the globe heads have IQs in the negatives, and their ideas should be treated as so. I think we're done with the Sun for now. Moving on to La Lunar herself, the Moon makes its way above the Earth much like the Sun. It just circles around up there. At least there is the moon phases talk about. It may seem possible for the reflection of the Sun to work the way it does based on our model, but it is actually very simple. The Moon isn't always level with the Sun. During a 28-day period, the Moon shifts further up and down in its revolution. The new angles between the Sun and Moon cause more or less reflection based on its positioning, aka the phases of the Moon. Funny how everything in this model just happens to line up. It's as if the model is perfect in every way and is far superior compared to a certain, but hypothetical, model that depicts a round Earth. Nah, it's just a coincidence. Our real question is about lunar eclipses. If someone has to cast a shadow on the moon, then what is it? I shall answer that hypothetical question of my own creation. Have you ever considered that there is another spatial object floating above our heads? Well, it is there, and it is beautiful. It is called the shadow object, and it is the answer that fills every hole in our model. The shadow object is a satellite of the sun, and it periodically aligns itself between the sun and moon during a full moon. This causes the shadow to be cast onto the moon and then onto our eyes. No one knows where the shadow object came from. It might have been sent by the ether itself to aid us in our quest for knowledge. Thank you, shadow object. Without you, our moons wouldn't be bloody. Well, that's basically the flat Earth model. There are the planets and stars too, but those are for the advanced course coming out at a later time. I'd just like to end this with an official note. To all of you who just spent the last few minutes thinking that this was just some meme or something, come closer.
This isn't a joke. The Earth is flat, you little piece of...
Anyhow, so what's? I guess it's time to say goodbye. Always remember to walk 10 minutes a day, and be as straight as the Earth we live on. Goodbye.